The Dark Riders. Sometimes referred to as Garnok's generals, the Dark Riders have the opposite mission of the Soul Riders as they work to liberate Garnok. The Dark Riders include Sabine, Jay or Jessica, Katya, and Erisa. Each Dark Rider is an antithesis of a Soul Rider. These are the canon pairings confirmed by cutscenes. Sabine and Anne, Jay and Linda, Katya and Lisa, Erisa and Alex. In Starshine Legacy 4, this is what Fripp tells Alex. These creatures are not human. They have powers beyond your imagination. The generals use their mental powers to materialize in Jorvik, like Mr. Sands, the girl Jessica, and even your enemy Katya. Keep this in mind because I will be mentioning it later. According to the books and Star Stable Online, Mr. Sands was once born human. He was born in London, England, and had many different names throughout the centuries. This is a sort of change from Starshine Legacy, and I'm surprised people don't bring it up as often. Let me explain. His birthday is unknown, but from what we can tell, he was likely born in the middle of the 18th century or the late 18th century. In the book The Legend Awakens, Linda explores Pine Hill Mansion, particularly Mr. Sands' library, and comes across a diary. The first entry is dated August 18th. According to Starshine Legacy and the comics associated with those games, Mr. Sands' real name is Sancorda. He was first documented in 1871 as a fisherman named Mr. Sanders. For this I found a very well-written blog post from 2017, and I will link it in the description. The Jorvik correspondence. December 14th, 1871. Deep sea monster caught just outside Jorvik. On the 11th of December, a hideous sea creature was caught in the fisherman's net just outside the Jorvik Bay. The creature seemed to belong to a deep sea specimen with several huge eyes and tentacles. The fishing boat captain, Mr. Sanders, says that the net got tangled to something just above the ocean edge, known as Kraken Depths. Unfortunately, before any scientists were able to examine the unknown sea creature, the fisherman dropped it back into the deep seas just outside the harbor. Due to the immense depth outside Jorvik and the ocean currents, the carcass could not be found again when the scientists' search boat was dragging the coastline. In Starshine Legacy 3, Anne goes to Pandoria to save Concord. While there, she finds murals that tell the story of Garnok. According to these murals, there was a planet of horses, possibly starbreeds, where the horses were guarded. An evil monster attacked these horse people, so the horse people of the planet fought and defeated him. The monster was eventually captured and imprisoned in a starship, which eventually ended up crashing on Earth. I've seen theories that the UFO near the North Link is actually Garnok's spaceship. I am not so sure. From my understanding, his ship crashed in the sea off the coast of Jorvik. Fripp also stated this in The Legend of Pandoria. We were 4 guardians, 4 powerful heroes, each holding one of the locks that held the monster Garnok imprisoned. Over the centuries, the generals have made many attempts to free their master, but we have stopped them. We have chosen 4 champions who share our powers. These champions are called the Soul Riders. I have seen people state that the generals were reborn in different parts of Jorvik, but to me this is a bit confusing. Fripp said that the generals are still trapped in Garnok's ship. I don't think this was mentioned in the books, so it's perfectly possible that this idea was retconned, but maybe I'm wrong. On August 30th, 1798, Mr. Sands wrote about having strange, dark dreams. According to him, this came from the bottom of the sea. In the questline that leads to saving Linda, the Baroness states this. It's a long and painful story, one I am not yet prepared to tell in full. But since you found out this much on your own, I owe you more. My first husband was not the man I thought I had married. He was dangerous. We eloped. My parents never approved of the union. At first, our life together was pure bliss. But then, he changed. Or rather, he became confident in sharing things that he had kept hidden when he came courting. Dark things. He believed he heard voices from the sea. They promised him eternal life and power, and this voice, he said that it chose me. This voice from the sea had a role for me in his plan. When I realized I was with child, I left the marriage at once. I had the child in secrecy and gave it up for adoption so that the horrible man would never have to know his wicked parents. My parents were supportive. They helped me to bury that dark chapter of my life. Though it is unclear what this role in his plan was supposed to be, the Baroness was only 18 years old when she married Mr. Sands. Big yikes. Found it. The pages are moldy and the binding is falling apart, but this is definitely the right registry. It says here when the Baroness was 18, she married a Mr. John Sandman from Fergro. The marriage was annulled shortly after. But why was Mr. Sands hearing these voices? Well, The Legend Awakens gives us a great explanation for this. In 1798, his lover Rosalinda was accused of being a witch and thrown into icy waters. This was called the swimming test, and I did find a very interesting article about it. It was used as an informa judicial evidence to identify witches throughout the 17th century. From what I could find, these witch trials in England would have been concluded by the early 18th century. Very scary if you look into it. The article will be linked in the description. On September 2nd, 1798, Rosalinda passed away. 10 days later, Sands mentioned a strange voice speaking to him. It first spoke to him at Rosalinda's funeral, saying, "John, follow me and everything will be yours." It's important to note that there was no mention of the name Sangorda here. Was the original plot point retconned? Something I found really interesting was that he stated Garnok forbade him from forming close ties with other people, and Sands must be his faithful servant. I would imagine this rule applies to the Dark Riders as well. On October 31st, 1815, Sands wrote, "And when everything is ashes and fire and the little humans are screaming, then I will laugh and think of the moment all that was warm and good in me died with her." But then, what was Mr. Sands fishing in 1871? Well, perhaps one of Garnok's generals, but this information is confusing at best and I'm not particularly sure. Then, in 1890, Deep Core was established. Deep Core was Dark Core's predecessor. During that time, Mr. Sands was known as Owen D. Sands. Him mentioning drilling for unknown metals and ore reminds me of draconium, but that's a topic for another day. As the blog post mentions, he was likely trying to dig down to Pandoria or wherever Garnok was trapped. Deep Core was closed in 1904 after an accident that led to the death of 211 workers and 14 civilians. Mr. Sands at some point was also known as John Sandman, lived in Fergro, was part of the council, and leased a house to Mrs. Packard. During this same time, he also married the Baroness and had a child with her, who ended up being Thomas Morland. Sabine is one of our primary antagonists in Star Stable Online. I would argue she's likely the most interesting member of the Dark Riders, which makes sense because she's by all means and purposes their leader. And of course, the most popular in the fandom. Understandably so. Sabine's powers are the opposite of Soul Rider Anne. Anne is the Soul Rider of the Sun, and while the Dark Rider's powers don't have specific names, she could be called the Fire Rider. What's interesting here is that they share multiple similarities, especially their passion for equestrianism. I'd say their personalities are also a little similar, with a couple differences, but they both seem like perfectionists to me. There's a lot of parallels, including a wealthy background. They're both hardworking, snarky, and notably, they both have a scar. She was first mentioned by Herman in the game Star Academy, where he stated that Sabine was on vacation with her parents on a tropical island and was unable to carry out her duties at Jorvik stables. This already hinted at the fact that she was an equestrian. Sabine finally made her debut in the first Starshine Legacy game, where she was pretty much introduced as a bully who was trying to set Linda up. She mentions having a father who supported the school financially, so it seems it's been established from the beginning that she's from a rich family. Sabine also mentioned her father in the Spring Riders game. Her wealth is definitely hinted at a couple times within the game, like when she said she couldn't be seen around Moorland because of her status, or when the Baroness mentioned that she had paid for a month's worth of stable rent. During the Equestrian Festival, she mentions that she was born into equestrianism and the player was not. Plus, she is apparently a trained dressage rider. But of course, just like the other Dark Riders, Sabine is shrouded in mystery. Is she really human, or is she an immortal being from a different solar system? I think this question has bothered the fandom for a long time now, and while I'm sure many people have their own headcanons, there is no straightforward answer to this question. Let me explain why. In Starshine Legacy, Sabine was not mentioned as one of Garnok's generals. I know people will bring up the Cloud Rider with the horse that chased after Lisa, and while I do agree that the only explanation is that it was Sabine, I disagree that she was non-human. Controversial opinion, I know. I have spoken to some individuals before who have told me they simply believed she was pretending to be human as the other Dark Riders, and don't get me wrong, that is completely fine, but that's not necessarily my interpretation. However, what I do disagree with is when people claim she was previously an alien but now she's human. Please point me to one dialogue in Star Stable Online where it is explicitly confirmed she is human. Then of course there's the book version of Sabine. There's not much I have to say about her, but I know many people have strong feelings on this topic. You either hate her or you love her. I'd say she's a tiny bit different from her in-game version, but she's also clearly stated to be non-human and immortal. You could say that she's more threatening in the books, while in-game Sabine feels more complex to me. She obviously had her horrible moments, but then other times she's almost nonchalant and lets the player get away. She balances out the Dark Riders really well, stops them from making unreasonable decisions, and she's also a lot more willing to talk to the player compared to the other three. I always found her Equestrian Festival dialogues really interesting. I think that's worthy of its own theory video, where I could talk about my personal opinions, but if you pay close attention, it's clear that Sabine feels shunned and even outcast. She pretends not to care, but honestly, I think she does. One of my friends has pointed out some similarities between Sabine and Galloper Thompson, especially with their horses Khan and Morgan, the fiery theme and this concept of being someone's best soldier. I'll let them talk about that eventually, but I did also find the conversation between Sabine and Sieve really interesting. I think it's important to mention how different Sabine is from her fellow Dark Riders, and that they don't necessarily like her either. Katya and Jay have been seen bickering with her in multiple quests, so this could potentially be from jealousy or because of disagreements. Sieve practically calling Sabine out and asking, "Does your master know you live by this code?" was great writing to me. Are the legends true? Did you really gift him with immortality? Gift. Ha, the fool should have known that living forever is a curse. This was another line of hers that I liked. I do generally enjoy how Sabine is written, but I think it also leaves me with a lot of questions. Why would she say this? Is she speaking from experience? Of course, this is up to interpretation, and I'm not sure we'll ever truly know what was meant by this. Her horse is Khan, a Jorvik Frisian whose appearance slightly changes when Sabine is wearing her disguise. Out of the Dark Rider's horses, only Khan's name stayed consistent, while the others were changed. Jorvik Frisians are a fictional horse breed, different from purebred Frisians who can only come in black and sometimes chestnut. Actual Frisians originate from Friesland in the Netherlands. They were often used as war horses, which is a pattern you'll notice with the Dark Riders. Well then, what does Malumi mean? Well, I'm not sure we'll ever get an explanation, but it could be a name given to her by Garnok. Hear me out. If you interpret her as non-human, it could also be her real name or maybe her last name. It has a lot of different meanings in Latin, mainly evil or wicked, but apparently it also means captain of a vessel, pilot, navigator in Telugu. To be honest, it could be either, and I do think both meanings are particularly fitting. I think the Latin meaning is a bit on the nose, but the Telugu one could have something to do with Garnok's spaceship. You are truly free to interpret it as anything, as it has a lot of different meanings in so many languages. If you have any theories about Sabine, please drop them down below because I would love to read them. We have reached our second Dark Rider, and of course my favorite NPC in the game. Just to be clear for this segment, the character is officially called Jessica in-game, but a lot of people use the name Jay instead because non-binary Jay is a popular headcanon. In the updated version, the character's name was supposed to be Jay, and I know we all have our own feelings about this, but SSO didn't go through with the name change for unknown reasons. Please Don't Let This Bother You is the same character. In my personal opinion, Jay has to be the most underrated Dark Rider. They're Linda's opposite, and I think here that's quite straightforward too. Jay creates illusions and Linda dispels them. They share a couple similarities, like the fact that they're both the nerds of their respective groups, they're very intelligent, and are both South Asian. At least Jay is implied to be. Again, if the Dark Riders are from another solar system, it's possible they don't necessarily have human ethnicities, but there's nothing wrong with interpreting this as canon. Jay or Jessica first appeared in Starshine Legacy. Some people think they're different characters and that Jessica was replaced by Jay, but that's entirely untrue. The old version didn't make that many appearances in SSO, but thankfully Jay has been utilized a lot more recently, including in the recent main quest, which I was happy to see. The character was introduced as Jessica in Starshine Legacy, The Legend of Pandoria, and sort of served as an enemy to Anne, the evil version of her, if you will. She didn't like animals, especially not horses. She watched Anne and Concord at Jorvik's stables, then after the show sent his soul to Pandoria with a simple pat. At the end of the game, Concord kicked Jessica and Mr. Sands into the portal that led to Garnok's spaceship. This very much injured Mr. Sands, by the way. The character also made appearances in the Winter Rider, the Autumn Rider, and Summer Rider. When it comes to Jay, it's plain as day that they aren't human. This is also confirmed by the line, "Jessica is the name that Garnok granted me." And of course, everything Fripp mentioned about the generals in Starshine Legacy. As I have previously mentioned, Jay can cast illusions. It's also often said they have shadow powers. Their horse is a Marvari named Acerpas. Marvaris are from the Marwar region in the state of Rajasthan, India. They were bred by the Rathod dynasty and were used in battle. British colonists tried to eliminate the Marvari, and by the 1950s, the breed was on the verge of extinction. I'm not sure what else I could say about Jay. Unfortunately, the character is not very well explored at the moment. I do understand that it's likely for a reason. The Dark Riders are supposed to be the mysterious villains of the game. Nevertheless, I could also say Jay makes reasonable decisions, despite being very impatient, but in the quest where the player teamed up with the Dark Riders, it was Jay's idea to stabilize the Draconium. Just like Linda, it seems that Jay is the one who does the research in the group, confirmed by Jay telling the Soul Riders, "Tell Mrs. Holdsworth thanks for doing my work for me." The name Jay, sometimes spelled with an I at the end, also means win or victory in Hindi, which is just a fun fact, but it's very fitting for a Dark Rider. I think it would have been a fun concept to explore that a Dark Rider went against Garnok's wishes and changed their name despite not being allowed to do so. The books do have a great scene of Jessica longing for her life back on Dark Star, which I thought was beautifully written. In the first book, Jessica expresses doubt about whether Sand is able to communicate with Garnok, but Sabine silences her. It's almost as if they could have gotten into trouble for questioning their boss's authority. This is interesting to me because in the game, I actually interpret it to be the opposite way around. Sabine perhaps being more critical of Dark Horde than Jay or Katya. Of course, this isn't literally stated, but Sabine has let the player go on multiple occasions, including during the teaming up quest, and Jay was clearly frustrated about it. Still, I highly doubt that the other Dark Riders, maybe minus Erisa, would question Sabine's leadership. Katya is undoubtedly one of the more popular Dark Riders, probably second to Sabine. She is certainly one with a lot of lore surrounding her. She has ice powers and is the antithesis to Soul Rider Lisa. Katya has been called the Bringer of Nightmares or the Death Rider, while Lisa is very much the personification of life and healing. They're also both musicians. She first showed up in the Starshine Legacy game, The Riddle of Darkor, and was confirmed as one of Garnok's generals. I think it's funny that on the wiki she's described as better behaved than her fellow Dark Riders, when I'd argue she's far creepier and more violent than Sabine or Jay have shown to be in-game. There have been instances of her showing up out of nowhere to attack the player and the Soul Riders. In Starshine Legacy, Katya challenged Alex to the Scarecrow Hill race. Katya won by cheating. By kissing James on the cheek, she put a spell on him and he went missing the following day. This was later referenced in Star Stable Online, meaning parts of Starshine Legacy are still canon, but there is no conclusive answer that could tell us what is or isn't canon. She also appeared in The Winter Rider. It seems Katya's abilities haven't changed as much. She is capable of mind control, and though at some point all the Dark Riders have been accused of that, she did keep James's mind under control while kidnapping him. These powers were once again referenced by Sabine in Star Stable Online, where she states, "I'm going to have to send Katya here later to wipe their memories of this magic." At the end of Starshine Legacy, Katya tells Alex that she'll be banished from Jorvik. This appears to be true for Star Stable Online when Sans mentions that Katya has recovered from her trip to us and no longer needs to remain in the light from the dark portal to regain her strength. Finally, she can move freely among us. Katya is often theorized to be the Ice Witch from Dino Valley. Again, this is worth its own video, and I have already made a theory post about it on Instagram, so I won't be going into this right now. However, from what Katya has expressed in dialogues, she seems to have a lot of resentment for the people of Jorvik because of how horribly she has been treated by them and because her magic was seen as a curse. Personally, I would love to see the Ice Witch be explained more, and it's a shame that Katya has been erased from the summer event. Katya's horse is Mortifa. She's an Akaltik, a horse breed that originates from Turkmenistan. They are recognized for their intelligence and they are one of the oldest surviving horse breeds. The Russians call them divine or sacred horses, while in ancient China they were known as heavenly horses. Mortifa is blind, and according to the wiki, Katya controls her through the collar on her neck, her violin keeping her alert. Mortifa is derived from the Latin word mortifer, also known as mortifera or mortiferum, which means deadly, fatal, or death-bringing, even destructive. I think this name is very fitting, though I would also like to note that the name Katya, which is derived from the name Catherine, means pure. This is quite ironic, but it's a common theme with her. Her SSO wiki profile states that her favorite food is angel cake. I was able to find her official profile, which states that her least favorite food is golden apples. An evil witch cannot resist a golden apple. Katya was also bribed with a fake golden apple at one point. To me, this confirms that she's the Ice Witch, but then again, it's up to interpretation. Katya's symbol is absolutely a reference to the Icendel's blocked entrance. Last but not least, we have Erisa, or the Agent of Chaos. She is our fourth and last Dark Rider. Her horse is Nihili. Erisa was not mentioned in Starshine Legacy. She has been referred to as both Nihili and Chio, the former eventually ending up as her horse's name, and Chio ended up being scrapped. The name Nihili probably comes from nihilism, which claims that life is meaningless, morals are baseless, and that knowledge is impossible. I suppose this somewhat connects to Erisa being the Agent of Chaos. I'll be honest, it's hard to say much about Erisa because although she's been outright confirmed as non-human, there's not much we know about her. We know she's been imprisoned in Bramble Between, but she didn't want to mention who did it. It could have been the Vala, but it's not confirmed. If it had been them, why would Steve give the rune hammer to Sabine? But then again, how did she know where Erisa was imprisoned? Why did the Dark Riders even make contact with the Vala? There are a lot of unanswered questions here, but according to Erisa, Darko kept her imprisoned and she solved everything with the help of the trees. Likely this refers to the Life Warden trees, and perhaps Bramble Between is another name for the Wild Weave. Maybe we'll never know, but there's certainly an interesting dynamic between Darko and Erisa. Then again, who exactly is Darko? According to the in-game journal, he originates from Norway and he is human, but he has magic. This confirms to us that within the universe of Star Stable Online, Soul Riders aren't the only humans able to possess magic. It's also something to note that Steve first refers to Erisa as it rather than her, but later corrects herself. Erisa is supposedly Alex's opposite, but I'm not sure I can quite say what their powers differ in. At the end of the day, I think everyone has their own interpretations of the Dark Riders. They're super interesting and there's a lot that can be explored within their stories. I know not everyone is interested in a redemption arc, but that's completely fine. Personally, I would love to see them team up with the Soul Riders. There is a specific cutscene that suggests they might team up with them against Erisa and Garnok, but who knows, maybe it means something different. Personally, I would love to have another main quest in the near future, and if possible, more than just one next year. Star Stable lore is so interesting, and I do often see people talking about how so much of the lore has changed and that it doesn't make sense, but here's the thing, this game and story are over 10 years old. Unfortunately, mistakes are bound to happen, especially inconsistencies, but I'm sure there's a possibility of everything making more sense in the future. I have seen the game masters discuss reworking older quests to make them make more sense, and while I do see the changes, I disagree that the game is less mysterious now or that it's been dumbed down. Star Stable is still very mysterious, the story has a lot of potential, and I'm sure the team are doing their best to wrap up the current chapter. With that, I think loose ends might eventually be tied up as well. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider following my socials and stay tuned for future theory videos. Thank you for watching. Bye!